Welcome back to Z Coins. If you're holding on to some old coins or even just casually checking your pocket change, you might be sitting on a small fortune. Today we're diving deep into the world of rare pennies. Yes, you heard that right, just one single Lincoln penny could make you a millionaire. So in this video we're going to explore the top 7 most valuable Abraham Lincoln penny coins that are worth a whole lot of money in the current market. Some of these coins have sold at auction for tens of thousands, others for hundreds of thousands, and a few, believe it or not, have broken the $1 million mark. So sit tight, you won't want to miss any of these. Let's get started. We're diving deep into the fascinating world of coins and collectibles with a special focus on a small but powerful piece of American history, the 1917 Abraham Lincoln 1-cent penny. You may be surprised to know that this tiny copper coin, minted over a century ago, could be worth a lot more than just a cent in your pocket. So whether you're a seasoned coin collector or someone who just stumbled across an old penny in a drawer or in change, this video will walk you through the full story, the value, and why the 1917 Lincoln penny might just be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars today. Let's start with a little background. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first American coin to feature a real historical figure. Before that, coins only had representations of liberty or symbolic designs. This was a huge change in U.S. coinage history and was part of a broader effort to modernize the look of U.S. currency. The coin's design was created by Victor David Brenner, whose initials can actually be found on some versions of the coin, which adds another layer of interest for collectors. The obverse side of the coin features a profile of President Lincoln facing right, while the reverse originally featured 2 wheat ears, which is why these coins are also known as wheat pennies. Now let's talk specifically about the year 1917. This was a time when America was just entering World War I. It was a period of transition and turmoil, and the coins minted during this time reflect that era in a very real way. In 1917, the Lincoln cent was minted at 3 locations: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without a mint mark, the Denver Mint, which used the D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint, which used an S mint mark. Each of these versions can have different values depending on their condition, rarity, and other factors. The 1917 Lincoln penny is made of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. It has a diameter of 19 millimeters and weighs about 3.11 grams. Over 200 million Lincoln cents were produced in 1917, which might make it sound common, but here's the twist: not all of these coins have survived the test of time, and even fewer are in good condition. And that's where the value really begins to rise. So how much is the 1917 Lincoln penny actually worth today? Well, it depends on a few key factors. First and foremost is the condition or grade of the coin. Coins that have been heavily circulated with lots of wear and tear are worth less than coins that have been preserved in mint or near mint condition. A heavily worn 1917 penny might only fetch $1 or $2. But one in very fine condition could be worth anywhere from $20 to $50. Now, if you happen to have one in uncirculated condition, meaning it looks nearly brand new, the value can climb into the hundreds, and in some rare cases even over $1,000. In fact, one 1917 penny graded MS-67 by a professional coin grading service sold for over $6,000 at auction. Now let's break that down further. The Philadelphia version with no mint mark is the most common but still valuable in higher grades. A well-preserved Philadelphia 1917 cent can be worth several $100s. The Denver Mint D version is slightly less common, and in high grades its value tends to be a little higher than the Philadelphia version. But the real gem of the 1917 series is the San Francisco S Mint coin. These were minted in smaller quantities and are harder to find, especially in excellent condition. A high-grade 1917 S penny can command very high prices among collectors. One graded MS-66 red by PCGS once sold for over $30,000. Now you might be wondering, what does MS-66 red mean? In the coin grading world, coins are rated on a 70-point scale, with MS standing for mint state. A grade of 60 or above means the coin was never used in circulation. The red designation refers to the original red copper luster that some coins still retain even after more than a century. There are also red, brown, and brown designations which affect the value. Red coins are the most valuable because they are the most visually striking and best preserved. So how do you know if your 1917 penny is valuable? First, examine the coin closely. Look at the date. Check for a mint mark under the date to see if it's AD or an S or nothing, which means it's from Philadelphia. Then look at the condition. Does it have a lot of wear, or can you still see Lincoln's hair details clearly? Are the wheat stalks on the back still sharp? Does the coin have a nice copper color or has it darkened over time? These clues will help you determine the potential value. If you think you have a valuable coin, it's a good idea to have it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. That official certification can make a huge difference in the selling price, especially at auction. Beyond condition and mint mark, there are also errors and varieties to watch for. Some 1917 pennies have double die features, especially in the date or lettering. These double die errors are caused during the minting process and can be extremely valuable. A double die 1917 penny in high condition can easily sell for thousands of dollars. Always examine your coins under magnification if possible. Now let's look at the current market. As of today, coin collectors are more active than ever. Online marketplaces like eBay Heritage Auctions and Great Collections regularly feature rare Lincoln pennies, including those from 1917. Demand is strong, especially for coins in top condition with certified grading. Prices fluctuate based on interest scarcity and market trends, but high-grade 1917 cents, especially those with the S mint mark, continue to hold or increase in value over time. So, is it possible to strike it rich with a 1917 penny? Well, maybe not instantly rich, but yes, some of these coins can be worth a small fortune, especially if they have rarity, condition, and provenance on their side. Even a common one in good shape is a great piece of history to own. The Lincoln cent is still one of the most collected coins in the world, and every new collector's journey often begins with one of these. And remember, coin collecting is not just about the money. It's about the history, the stories, and the thrill of discovery. Each old penny has passed through countless hands, seen the rise and fall of eras, wars, technology progress, and personal stories. Holding a 1917 penny is like holding a tangible piece of American history in your hand, so if you come across one of these coins, don't just toss it in your change jar. Take a closer look. Who knows, you might be holding something rare, something valuable, something that has stood the test of time for over 100 years. We're going back in time to the year 1941 to explore one of the most iconic coins in American history, the 1941 D. Lincoln Wheat Penny, a small copper coin with a big story. We'll explore how it was made, why it matters, and most importantly, how much it's worth today in the collector's market. So stick around, because this little penny might be worth more than you think. Let's begin with the history. The year is 1941. America is still recovering from the Great Depression and just months away from entering World War II. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, while the nation was preparing for a major global conflict, the United States Mint in Denver was busy producing Lincoln Wheat pennies, as it had done for decades. The 1941 D penny was minted in large quantities, over 128 million to be exact, and the D mint mark right beneath the date stands for Denver, the facility responsible for striking these coins. Now, while 128 million sounds like a lot, and it is the real value of the 1941 D penny, comes down to its condition, rarity, and mint errors. Let's take a closer look. The Lincoln Wheat penny was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first American coin to feature a real person, and that person was none other than the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. The reverse side featured 2 stalks of wheat, which is why we call them wheat pennies. This design remained until 1959, when it was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial. So, for collectors, the wheat pennies, especially pre-1950 issues, are always of great interest. Now let's talk about the specifics of the 1941 D, made primarily of copper, about 95%, with the rest being tin and zinc. It weighs about 3.11 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. What makes this coin particularly desirable is not only its history, but also how it has aged. Coins that have been well preserved over the decades, especially those graded highly by certification services, can fetch impressive prices. So let's talk money. What is a 1941 D penny worth today in circulated condition, meaning it has wear from being used in everyday transactions? The coin is usually worth between 5 and 50 cents. That's not bad for a coin that originally cost 1 cent, but it gets better if the coin is in uncirculated or mint state condition. The value can jump significantly. A mint state coin graded MS60 can be worth around $5 to $10. A coin graded MS65 can be worth $30 to $50 or more, and if you are lucky enough to own a gem-quality MS67 red coin, you could be looking at hundreds of dollars. In fact, in auctions, some 1941 D Lincoln cents have sold for over $1,000, especially those with perfect red luster and high eye appeal. Now, you might be asking, what makes a penny red? Good question. When pennies are first struck, they appear a bright reddish copper color. As they age, they tone and become brown or sometimes red-brown. Collectors place a premium on coins that have retained their Original red coloring because it usually means the coin was stored carefully and avoided exposure to air and moisture. So, a 1941 D penny with a red designation is more desirable and valuable than a brown one in the same condition, but that's not all. There's also the potential for mint errors, which can drastically increase a coin's value. For example, a double die error where the design appears twice, or a repunched mint mark where the D was stamped more than once at different angles. These kinds of mistakes are rare but very collectible. Some error 1941 D pennies have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity and visibility of the mistake. So if you've got a 1941 D penny at home, get out a magnifying glass and take a closer look. It might just be one of those special ones. Now, how do you know what your coin is worth? The best way is to have it graded by a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC. They will examine your coin's condition, assign it a grade, and even verify any errors. This takes the guesswork out of selling or trading and ensures you get fair market value. And remember, the coin market is always changing. Rare coin prices tend to go up over time, especially for coins that are well preserved, so holding on to your 1941 D penny might be a good investment. Now let's summarize the 1941 D Lincoln Wheat penny is not just a piece of history, it's a potentially valuable collectible in circulated condition. It's worth a bit more than face value in mint state, or with a rare error it could be worth hundreds or even more. It all comes down to condition, color, and rarity. So if you have one or you come across one in a collection drawer or an old piggy bank, be sure to take a close look. You never know what treasure you might have in your hands. We explore the fascinating world of coins, collectibles, and hidden treasures you might just have in your pocket right now. Today we're diving deep into the story of one particular coin that looks ordinary to most people but can actually be worth much more than just 1 cent. We're talking about the 1950 D Lincoln Wheat penny. So sit back, relax, and let's take a journey through time and money to uncover why this little brown coin might be a big deal. Part 1. The origin of the Lincoln cent. Let's start from the beginning. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in the year 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and what better choice than the president who led the country through the Civil War and ended slavery. The front of the coin, known as the obverse, features a profile portrait of Abraham Lincoln, while the back or reverse originally showed 2 stalks of wheat. That is why coins minted from 1909 to 1958 are commonly referred to as wheat pennies. Now let's fast forward to the year 1950, and more specifically to the Denver Mint, which is where the 1950 D penny was struck. Part 2. 1950 D specifics and minting. Details. The letter D under the date on the front of the coin stands for Denver, which is one of the 3 main mints used by the U.S. government alongside Philadelphia and San Francisco. In 1950, the Denver Mint produced over 334 million 1-cent coins, which means the 1950 D is not necessarily a rare coin in terms of how many were made. So what makes it so valuable today? Well, that's where things get interesting. Even though millions of these coins were made, not many were saved in perfect condition. Most went into circulation and were used daily for decades, which means they got scratched, worn down, and eventually replaced. But collectors today are looking for high-quality, uncirculated coins with sharp details and original color. And when you find a 1950 D penny in mint state, especially one with a red tone from the original copper surface that has not faded or turned brown, that's when the value really starts to rise. Part 3. How to identify a valuable 1950 D penny. So how do you know if your 1950 D penny is worth more than a cent? Start with the condition. If your coin has never been used or has minimal wear, it might qualify as uncirculated. Coin grading services like PCGS and NGC rank coins on a 70-point scale with MS60 to MS70, indicating uncirculated mint state quality. A 1950 D penny graded MS65 or higher can fetch anywhere from $20 to $100 depending on the color. Red is the most valuable, followed by red-brown and then brown. Another thing to look out for is any doubling or minting error. While the 1950 D is not famous for major errors, there have been occasional examples of repunched mint marks and slight die variations that can increase value. If you think you have one, it might be worth having it checked by a professional coin grading service. Part 4. Market value and collector demand. So, what is the 1950 D penny worth in today's market? For an average circulated example, it's worth between 2 and 5 cents, maybe up to 10 cents if it has minimal wear. Not bad for a coin that cost 1 cent to begin with. But when we look at coins in mint state, the value jumps dramatically. ANMS 64 red example sells for around $20 to $30. ANMS 65 red can reach $50 or more. And the highest graded coins known as MS67 red or higher can sell for over $200 at auction. There have even been sales where collectors paid several $100s for exceptionally well-preserved examples. In one case, a 1950 D penny graded MS67 red sold for over $1,000 because of its quality, rarity, and collector demand. Part 5. Why it's worth so little. So why should you care about a 1950 D penny? Because it shows that even common coins from your childhood or your grandparents' era can have surprising value. And because coin collecting is not just about the money. It's about history. It's about holding a piece of the past in your hand. It's about discovering the stories behind everyday objects. The 1950 D penny is a perfect example. Minted just 5 years after World War II during a time of economic growth and change in the United States, this coin was part of daily life for millions of Americans. And today, it still circulates among collectors and enthusiasts who appreciate its simple design and historical roots. Part 6. Final thoughts and tips. If you want to start collecting Lincoln Wheat pennies, the 1950 D is a great coin to begin with. Affordable, easy to find, and a good lesson in condition grading. Start by checking your change jars or old coin collections. Look closely at the date and the condition. If you find a shiny red 1950 D penny with sharp details, you might have something special. And remember to store your valuable coins properly. Use protective coin flips or holders and avoid touching them with bare hands. Oils and dirt can damage the surface and reduce the value. Outro. So there you have it. The humble 1950 D Lincoln Wheat penny might not look like much, but in the right condition and with a little bit of luck, it could be worth a lot more than face value. We uncover hidden gems in your pocket change. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and collectible coins in American history. We are talking about the 1952 Denver Mint Lincoln Wheat penny. It might look ordinary to the untrained eye, but some of these coins can be worth a lot of money depending on their condition, rarity, and demand among collectors. If you've ever come across a 1952 D penny and wondered if it's worth more than just 1 cent, then you are in the right place. Sit tight as we explore its history, characteristics, and current market value. First, let's take a step back into history. The 1952 D Lincoln Wheat cent was minted in Denver during a time of post-war prosperity in the United States. The wheat penny itself was designed by Victor David Brenner and first issued in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. It was the first U.S. coin to feature the image of a real person. For over 50 years, the wheat ears on the reverse side and Lincoln's portrait on the obverse became an iconic part of American coinage. Now let's talk specifically about the 1952 D issue. The D mint mark stands for the Denver Mint, which produced a massive 746 million Lincoln Wheat pennies that year. That's a high mintage number, which means most circulated examples are not rare. However, the story doesn't end there. Even though the 1952 D penny is common in lower grades, it becomes more desirable and valuable in higher grades, especially in uncirculated mint state condition. Coins graded MS 65 or higher can command strong prices due to their sharp details, full luster, and lack of wear or blemishes. Collectors pay a premium for examples that have been well preserved over the decades. A regular circulated 1952 D wheat penny might only be worth a few cents, maybe up to 50 cents, depending on condition. But when you move into the realm of high-grade mint state coins, the price jumps significantly. A 1952 D penny graded MS 65 red by a reputable grading company like PCGS or NGC can be worth anywhere from $20 to $100. If you have a coin graded MS 66 or higher, that price could jump to $200 or more. The top population coins with full red color and pristine condition have even sold for over $1,000 at auction. But that's not all. There are also some error coins from 1952 that can dramatically increase the value. Keep an eye out for coins with double dies, repunched mint marks, or off-center strikes. These types of minting errors are relatively rare and highly sought after by specialists. For example, a repunched D mint mark, where the letter D appears to be stamped more than once in slightly different positions, can bring in higher prices. Some of these error coins in high grades have fetched hundreds of dollars and occasionally much more. So how do you know if your coin is valuable? First, examine the color. Collectors use three color designations for Lincoln cents: brown, brown, and red. Red coins are the most valuable because they retain their original copper brilliance. A fully red 1952 D penny in MS 65 or better condition is far more valuable than the same coin with a dull brown tone. Second, check for any signs of damage or cleaning. A cleaned coin loses significant value in the eyes of collectors even if it looks shiny. Third, consider professional grading. Submitting your coin to a third-party grading service can help verify its authenticity, grade, and market value. Now let's turn to current market trends. As of this year, high-grade examples of the 1952 D wheat penny are still in demand. Even though this coin is not considered a key date, it remains popular because of the nostalgia and beauty associated with the wheat cent series. On average, a certified MS 65 red 1952 D Lincoln cent can sell for about $50 to $75. An MS 66 red example can fetch $150 or more. The absolute finest known examples can exceed $1,000, especially if they have desirable toning or eye appeal. You might be wondering where to sell a valuable 1952 D penny. The best options include online auction platforms such as eBay or specialized numismatic auctions through companies like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers. You can also consult with local coin dealers or attend coin shows to find potential buyers. Always compare prices and do your research to ensure you're getting fair market value. To sum it all up, the 1952 D Lincoln wheat penny might seem like a simple piece of copper, but in the right condition, it can be worth a surprising amount. Whether you are a seasoned collector or just checking your change jar, this coin is worth a second look. Remember, it's not just about the date or mint mark, but the overall condition and possible rarity due to errors or color designation. So next time you come across an old penny with a D under the date, take a moment to study it. You could be holding a small piece of American history that's worth more than you think. We uncover hidden treasures in your pocket change. Today, we are diving into a coin that millions of Americans have handled without realizing its hidden potential. We are talking about the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny, that tiny copper coin that could be worth far more than just 1 cent. Now, before we get into values and what makes some of these coins worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars, let's take a look at the history behind the 1953 penny. First of all, this coin is part of the famous Lincoln wheat cent series, which ran from 1909 all the way to 1958. These are easily recognized by the pair of wheat stalks on the reverse side, symbolizing prosperity and growth. The obverse of the coin features the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States and the first real person to appear on a regular issue American coin. His portrait was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of his birth, and it was designed by Victor David Brenner. His initials are still visible on most wheat cents, typically found near the shoulder cut on Lincoln's bust. Coming to 1953 specifically, this year was not one of the rarest in terms of mintage, but there are still some fascinating details collectors are always hunting for. In 1953, the Lincoln penny was struck at 3 different mints. You had the Philadelphia Mint, which produced over 256 million coins. These coins do not have a mint mark. Then there's the Denver Mint, which added a small letter D below the date and struck around 700 million coins. Finally, the San Francisco Mint marked their coins with an S and produced over 180 million pennies. With over 1 billion 1953 pennies produced across all 3 mints, you might be wondering why on earth would any of these be worth more than face value. The answer lies in condition, rarity, and error types. Let's start with condition. Coin collectors often look for coins in mint state condition, meaning they have never been circulated. A coin graded as MS 65 or higher on the Sheldon scale is highly desirable. These coins maintain full luster and sharp details and can fetch anywhere from $10 to over $50 depending on the mint mark and overall appearance. Now let's talk about proof coins. While there were no official proof coins made for the 1953 penny year, regular strike coins that have been preserved in perfect or near-perfect condition are still valuable. Some of the highest quality 1953 pennies have sold for over $200 in auctions. But here's where it gets really interesting. Error coins from 1953 can be worth a small fortune. Examples include double die obverse, which occur when the coin is struck twice with a misaligned die, leading to doubling in the text or portrait. Another valuable error is the off-center strike, which happens when the coin blank is not properly centered under the die. There are also clipped planchet errors where a piece of the coin is literally missing due to a cutting mistake during minting. These types of errors are rare and can increase the value of your penny from a few cents to hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on how dramatic the error is and the condition of the coin. Now let's talk about real market value. As of this year average, circulated 1953 Lincoln wheat pennies from Philadelphia typically sell for between 5 and 15 cents each. From Denver and San Francisco coins in similar condition go for slightly more, especially if they show good detail and minimal wear. Uncirculated coins or mint state examples with a strong strike can easily range from $5 to $50. But here's the kicker. A 1953 penny graded MS67 read by a top grading service such as PCGS or NGC has sold for over $500 at auction. That is 500 times its original face value. Coins with errors, especially dramatic double dies or off-center strikes, can exceed even that amount. So how can you tell if your penny is valuable? First, examine the color. A red penny that still shines like new is worth more than a brown one that has aged and oxidized. Next, check for mint marks and errors. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe to inspect the date and lettering for any doubling or misalignments. Finally, consider sending your coin to a professional grading service if you think it might be worth a lot. Getting your coin officially graded can greatly increase its value and make it easier to sell at auction or to a collector. Now, where can you sell your 1953 penny if you find a valuable one? There are several options, including online marketplaces like eBay and heritage auctions, as well as coin dealers and local coin shows. Always make sure to do your research and compare prices before selling. The more informed you are, the better deal you'll get. In conclusion, the 1953 Lincoln wheat penny may seem like just another copper coin, but hidden among the billions are rare gems that could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Whether you are a beginner or a seasoned collector, always check your change. You never know when you might find a forgotten treasure in your pocket or coin jar. We dive deep into rare coins and hidden treasures that could be sitting right in your change jar or tucked away in an old drawer. Today, we're uncovering the fascinating story behind a little copper coin that might be worth a lot more than you think. I'm talking about the 1954 Lincoln wheat penny. Not just a piece of small change, but a snapshot of American history that could be worth real money in today's collector market. So grab your magnifying glass and let's dig in. Let's start with the basics. The 1954 Lincoln penny was minted in Denver, Colorado. That little D under the date stands for the Denver Mint. In that year alone, over 250 million pennies were struck at the Denver facility. So right off the bat, this isn't necessarily a rare coin in terms of mintage. In fact, compared to earlier wheat pennies from the 1910s and 1920s, it's actually quite common. But like many coins, the devil is in the details. And some of those details can turn a common coin into a collector's dream. The design itself is part of the iconic Lincoln wheat series, which ran from 1909 until 1958. On the front or obverse, you've got the profile of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. This design was created by Victor David Brenner, and it was the first time a real person appeared on a U.S. circulating coin. That, in itself, was a revolutionary idea back in 1909. The back, or reverse, of the coin features two wheat ears flanking the words 1 cent and United States of America. Simple, clean, and deeply symbolic of American agriculture and strength. It's the same basic design used throughout the wheat penny era. Now back to 1954. America was in a post-war boom. The baby boom generation was growing fast. Suburbs were popping up. Rock and roll was just beginning to take shape. And Eisenhower was president. So when you hold a 1954 penny, you're not just holding metal. You're holding a piece of that era. A little copper time capsule. Let's talk metal content. These pennies were made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. That composition remained mostly unchanged until 1982, when the U.S. Mint began switching to copper-plated zinc. Because of their high copper content, these older pennies actually have intrinsic metal value as well. Though it's illegal to melt them down for their metal in the U.S., collectors and bullion enthusiasts still keep track of the melt value, which usually hovers around 2 to 3 cents depending on copper prices. Now the big question. What is the 1954 Lincoln penny actually worth? If you've got a worn, circulated one, the kind that's been passed around in pockets and cash registers for decades, you're looking at a value of around 3 to 10 cents. Not bad for something that originally cost a penny. But here's where it gets interesting. When you get into higher grades, the value begins to climb. A 1954 D penny in mint state condition, meaning it shows no signs of wear and retains its original luster, can be worth anywhere from $5 to $50 depending on the specific grade and eye appeal. If your coin is certified by a grading company like PCGS or NGC, and it's in extremely high condition, such as mint state 65 or better, it can fetch even more. We're talking $100 or more in some cases. And here's the kicker. If your coin has a rare error like a double die off-center strike or a repunched mint mark, that value can shoot up dramatically. Some known errors from this year have sold for hundreds of dollars to enthusiastic collectors. One of the most notable types of valuable 1954 D errors is the repunched mint mark. That's where the Denver mint mark was stamped more than once, slightly off alignment. These can be spotted with a good magnifying glass and trained eyes. Values for repunched mint mark varieties can range from $25 to well over $100, depending on grade. And it doesn't stop there. There are also examples of off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned during the minting process. These can be worth anywhere from $50 to $200 or more depending on the degree of error and how visually dramatic it looks. So what should you look for? Start by checking the date and the mint mark. Make sure it's 1954 with a D under the date. Then check for any unusual markings. Is the mint mark doubled or repunched? Is the coin perfectly round and centered, or does it look off balance? Does the lettering look unusual or misaligned? Is there any doubling, especially on the date or letters? Once you've found something that looks promising, you might want to invest in a proper coin grading guide or take it to a reputable coin dealer or appraiser. You can even submit it to a professional grading service for an official grade and encapsulation, which helps preserve and certify its value. Now let's take a quick look at the current market. As of this year, 2025, the value of a high-grade 1954 D penny in mint state 65 can range around $30 to $75. Prices may fluctuate depending on market demand, copper prices, and overall collector interest. But the market for wheat pennies remains strong, especially for collectors building full-date and mint mark sets. Even circulated coins have a niche among hobbyists, especially young collectors who are just getting started. And the 1954 D is an affordable, accessible way to own a piece of mid-century American numismatic history. So before you toss that old penny into a change jar, take a closer look. That 1954 D wheat penny could be worth more than face value. And if you're lucky enough to find one with no wear, brilliant red luster, or an error variety, you might be holding a miniature treasure right in your hand. If you're into coins, history, and maybe even making a little money from pocket change, you're going to love this video. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most iconic coins of mid-20th century America, the 1957 D Lincoln wheat penny. Now, at first glance, this coin might not look like anything special. It's just a copper penny, right? But don't be fooled. Some of these coins, depending on a few key factors, could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars in today's collector market. So, let's break it down. First, let's talk about the history. The 1957 D Lincoln wheat penny was minted at the Denver Mint, as shown by the small D below the date. This was during a time when America was experiencing major social and technological change. It was the middle of the Cold War. The space race was beginning. And yet, in everyone's pockets, this humble little penny continued to carry the image of President Abraham Lincoln, as it had since 1909. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent was actually the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and who better than Lincoln, the man who preserved the Union and ended slavery. On the reverse, you'll see the familiar wheat stalks, hence the name wheat penny, which were used until 1958. The 1957 D is among the last of the wheat penny series before the design was changed in 1959 to the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Now, let's get into mintage and availability. The Denver Mint produced over 1.05 billion 1957 D pennies. Yes, billion with a B. That means this coin is not rare by quantity alone. You can still find these in circulation in old jars or your grandparents' coin collection. So what makes some of them so valuable? It comes down to three key things: condition, mint errors, and demand. Let's start with condition. Coin collectors use a grading system from poor to mint state, and then some more precise subgrades beyond that. If your 1957 D penny is heavily circulated, worn down, scratched, or damaged, it's probably only worth face value or a few cents to collectors. But if your penny is in uncirculated condition, meaning it has that original mint luster and no signs of wear, then we're talking serious value. A 1957 D penny graded MS-65 read by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC could sell for $20 to $50. Maybe more depending on the market. MS-67 red example, extremely rare, with nearly perfect surfaces and brilliant color, could fetch hundreds of dollars or more at auction. Next, let's talk about errors, and this is where things get exciting. Minting errors can skyrocket a coin's value. Look out for things like double dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and die cracks. One known variety from 1957D includes a repunched mint mark, or RPM. That's where the D mint mark was punched more than once and slightly misaligned. Some of these RPM varieties can sell for $20 to $100, depending on how dramatic the doubling is and the condition of the coin. Even better are any double die obverse errors, where Lincoln's profile or the date show signs of doubling. While not as common for this year, if you find one, it could be worth a significant premium. Now, here's where things get interesting. In recent years, coin collecting has surged in popularity. Thanks to YouTube, TikTok, and eBay, people are now hunting through their pocket change and selling coins online. This surge has increased demand, especially for older coins like the wheat pennies. Let's talk about market value today. An average circulated condition. A 1957 D penny is typically worth 1 to 3 cents, basically just copper melt value and a bit of collector premium. But in mint state, especially if it still has full red color and has been graded professionally, you could be looking at $30, $50, even $100 or more. One particular 1957 D penny graded MS-67 Plus red by PCGS once sold at auction for over $1,000. Why? It was practically perfect, incredibly rare in that grade, and the collector demand was high. So how can you find one? Start by checking those old coin jars or piggy banks. Ask your grandparents. Visit estate sales, flea markets, or antique shops. And of course, if you find one, make sure to have it graded by a reputable third-party grading service. Here's a quick checklist if you think you've got a valuable 1957 D penny. Is it shiny and red, like it just came from the mint? Are there any visible errors, like doubling or a strange mint mark? Has it been kept in a protective sleeve or holder? Does it look almost brand new? If you answered yes to any of those, it's worth investigating further. You might be sitting on a small treasure. To wrap this up, while the 1957 D Lincoln wheat penny might seem ordinary, it's anything but. Thanks to condition, errors, and collector demand, some of these little copper coins are worth far more than 1 cent. Whether you're a seasoned collector or a curious beginner, this is one coin that deserves a second look. If you enjoyed this deep dive into coin history and value, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Got an interesting penny in your collection? Let us know in the comments. You never know, your coin might be featured in a future episode. Thanks for watching and happy coin hunting.